Why hello everybody, Randy Andy here, and today I wanted to talk about Star Wars, but not just Star Wars, an anthology film idea I have had, which is quite unusual. Now I do consider myself a Star Wars fan, as you can see, but as much as Star Wars has satisfied me with the Clone Wars TV series, not so much Rebels, with the original trilogy, not all the time, with Episode 7, besides Starkiller Base, with Rogue One, besides the opening, I always felt like more could have been done with the series. Just because it's in the Star Wars universe, it doesn't mean it needs to be filled with violence and massive battles. So, with that in mind, this is my idea for, keep in mind, a spin-off anthology film. And it has to do with Luke Skywalker, Owen Lars, and Aunt Beru. I'm not sure if her last name is Lars, I'm just assuming it would be. Anyway, so this anthology film would cover Luke as a child to maybe as a teenager, and it would basically be a film about Owen and Beru raising Luke. So basically a slice of life film, but we need to bear in mind this is Tatooine, right? This is Mos Eisley, the most wretched hive of scum and villainy. Now with that in mind, there could be interesting things here. I'm going to highlight some of them for you. First one could honestly just be Aunt Beru and Owen Lars raising Luke, right? Now, because Luke is obviously adoptive in this case, he bears a lot of weight to him because he is Darth Vader's son. He would be Force sensitive, that's just common sense. So you have to wonder, why did Owen and Beru say that they were his aunt and uncle? That makes him know he has a real father somewhere, which opens up all these possibilities. And with that in mind, there could be a lot of family confrontation about, why haven't I met my father? Who is he? Why do people not like to talk about him? All that kind of stuff. You guys aren't my real parents, that kind of stuff. And I know it sounds almost angsty teeny, but it's a real thing that people who are in that kind of situation go through. And when it's spinned on the Skywalker legacy, that could be extremely interesting. Not only that, we would get to see how Aunt Beru and Owen Lars are as adoptive parents. I've always wanted to see how good they actually are at raising Luke, because in episode 4 you see that Owen doesn't want to let Luke go and join the rebels. He wants him to help him on a farm for like 1 year more. It's always been 1 year more, right? Which you can understand from a fatherly point of view, but it makes you wonder, has Owen tried to do this sort of thing before in terms of restricting Luke from doing something? And we could even see Luke as a child and say Uncle Owen protecting him as a child in the Mos Eisley spaceport or something. Like we could even see Owen Lars having one of those old school Western draw gunfights. And that could be something we've never known Owen Lars for before, because all we know him as is a moisture farmer. Now I'm not saying he's got to be as good with a blaster as Han Solo, Han shot first, but what I am saying is that he could be, decent. He could be good, with a blaster, and he could end up wiping out just some random Greedo clone on the street or something. Now that would make Owen Lars seem like a bit more of a cold character, but it could be executed in a way that it's like, well, if I don't do this, Luke is gonna die. My adoptive son and my nephew is going to die. So I kind of have to do this. And you could see Owen kind of breaking down after doing that, even though he's killing essentially scum of Mos Eisley. Now for the second point of what could make this film interesting, that would be the Empire, because we know the Empire pretty much soon after episode 3 has taken a very firm grasp of the galaxy because of its position already in the Republic on so many planets and the Empire growing. And what would be so interesting about this is we could see the economic effects of the Empire on a planet like Tatooine, the political effects, the social effects. We could see soldiers of the Empire and stormtroopers just executing people in the streets. And we wouldn't know why. Luke would look at it in horror, and it may even desensitize him to a certain degree. We would see prisoners being taken up and down the streets of Mos Eisley. We could basically see stormtroopers infesting the whole area with sentry points and basically looking like alien and like they are just colonizers of the area, because that is basically what they are. We could see their discrimination towards other races in the galaxy, which links to the executing people in the street thing. You know, we could see tons of Twi'leks just being brought down on their knees in the middle of the street. Some Empire officer makes some speech about setting an example, fires his gun off into the air, and then the stormtroopers just let loose. And that could be something that just even Owen Lars and Aunt Beru see. And it could be a recurring theme in the movie, like maybe twice or three times, just to show that it's common in a place dominated by the Empire. Not only would this be a slice of life with comedy, with drama, drama specific to the Star Wars universe, with violence in terms of street battles and the Empire taking over everything. It would be a mix of genres at this point, which is exciting to me, and it would be a coming of age film in a sense. Now, the third part that would make this film interesting is Luke Skywalker. When I say that, think back to episode 1. Think back to Anakin Skywalker, right? And how he was the only one who was able to pod race because of his reflexes as a human that were abnormal in comparison to other humans. What does this ultimately mean? It doesn't mean Luke has to pod race. Please don't pod race. I like the pod race, but that'd just be a bit odd. We could see Luke doing things in terms of the Force that other people can't do. And I don't mean like miraculous stuff, like learning Jedi mind tricks off the fly or whatever, because that would completely contradict episode 4, because Luke doesn't really even think he has the Force at the start of episode 4. What I mean is simple things, like Owen getting frustrated and throwing something at him like a spoon and him dodging it fast, like quicker than most people would be able to, or catching the spoon in the air like one of those kung fu movies or something. And another minor point, we could have a Ben Kenobi cameo, and this would be a small thing. Kenobi going to Owen Lars asking, is Luke safe? Is he alright? Blah blah blah, right? And then Luke asks, who's that? And Owen's just like, oh, some crazy hermit, right? And he says that because he doesn't want Luke to know who Obi-Wan is and why Obi-Wan knows about Luke. And the final point is how I think this movie could end and what would make it extremely special. Now, in this movie, there would have been a lot of character building of Owen Lars and Aunt Beru, otherwise pretty minor characters in terms of what we've seen on screen. But we would get to know them well in this film, especially in relation to being Luke's adoptive parents. Now, what that means is, whenever it feels comfortable for the film, whenever the scene change seems correct, we could get a time skip showing the death of Aunt Beru and Owen Lars. And you might think, why? That's not necessary. And to me, when you've created such a bond with these characters, and we already know they die from episode 4, how powerful would it be to A, know how they died, because we know it was stormtroopers, but we never saw the actual thing, right? And B, just emotionally, it could be done in such a way that it makes people tear up in the cinema. And that would be unusual for Owen Lars and Aunt Beru, for people to tear up about them. And I just want as many characters to be enriched in this universe as possible now that the movies are starting up again. It would be so interesting to see their death and see how the Empire treats them, whether they torture them or whether they get it done quick. They probably torture them about the whereabouts of Luke. All that being said, I know this movie probably will never be made, mostly because it's too much of a risk. It really is too much of a risk. It's not action orientated enough, despite what I've said where action could come in. It's not mainstream Star Wars enough. And that, unfortunately, is just how it goes. This would be my favorite Star Wars film if I ever saw it, because it's just so wildly different from everything else, and it could be so in-depth and so character-rich. I'm not saying other Star Wars movies haven't been character-rich, but this one could be so character-rich in its own unique way. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who cares about this type of film for Star Wars and about Owen Lars, Aunt Beru, and Luke as a child to a teenager, but somehow I doubt that. Somehow I feel like people want more out of Star Wars than what we're getting, even though what we're getting is pretty good. Anyway guys, with all that being said, please do leave comments down below about what you thought about what I said, or even just your own anthology spin-off ideas. But you know what to do. This has been Randy Yandy, and I will see you in the next one. And it has to do with Luke Skywalker.